this is geographic nitpicking on a scale that I guess I shouldn't do, but there is nowhere geographically that you can describe as Northeast Louisiana that is also an hour and a half from New Orleans. I'm sorry.
No.
No. Anyway, and fucked up the geography of the state too. Welcome to the Articulate Coven, the original, unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Immortal universe, The Vampire Chronicles, Lives of the Mayfair Witches, and the Immortal Universe TV series from AMC and AMC+. The Articulate Coven is Ashley and Joel, but it's supported by listeners just like you. Find out more at articulatecoven.com/join. Welcome to the Articulate Coven. We are your hosts. I'm Joel, and we are the Articulate Coven. Ashley, it's a book club.
It is a book club. A book club, and I found my copy of this. So I was...
Your physical?
Yeah.
Look at you.
So I was reading a book today. I told Joel, I found an old bookmark in it. Like almost immediately. I was like, oh, I've been in these pages before.
This book is so strange, Ashley, and I'm so excited to get to it. Again, you all sort of surprised us, and I think in retrospect, we're going to be very glad you did.
Yes.
We did not expect you to push us directly into Blackwood Farm, but overwhelmingly that's what our patrons voted for. And even the non-patrons, folks on YouTube, several people said, oh, please, I hope you get to Blackwood Farm eventually. It's one of my favorites, blah, 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 similar things. And the other thing, Ashley, I went and looked in our, you know what, before we get into all of that, we do have some other stuff. We'll talk about the book in a moment and your feedback on it.
Get all into it.
Specifically. Yeah, let's talk about a little bit of business first and foremost. In the show notes of this episode, wherever you're watching it, is a full schedule for the upcoming episodes. We're talking about the movie. We've got lined out the movies that we're going to discuss in the near future.
Oh.
We've got the rest of this book and how many chapters you're going to need to read each time. And then we've also got our next live stream now on the calendar. Ashley and I just talked about it off the air, July 27th. We're going to be doing it. That's a Sunday, middle of the afternoon for like Central Standard Time in America, 3 p.m. I think it is on the East Coast. Anyway, the information's in the show notes. I don't have a link set up for you yet, but I will do that. And since so many of you have asked for it, we're going to experiment. I've got to get all my I's dotted and T's crossed, etc. But we'll set this one up so that we can stream it directly in the Facebook group too. So if you've had problems in the past, or if you're like, I don't want to chase down some whatever link that this guy's sending,
right?
We'll be in the Facebook group for this one.
My God.
Yeah, it's never porn, I promise. Okay, I had a few other pieces of feedback. Oh, just generally, as always, I do want to reiterate, in case you're joining us for the first time, we are going to be going in person to the Anne Rice Celebration of Life, November 1st in New Orleans.
Woohoo!
We still don't know the time for that event. We still don't know what the ticket sale situation is. I really don't know at this point what Christopher's waiting for. Wish they'd do that. We do know, though, if you cannot travel to it, it is going to be broadcast on the internet at a later date. It won't be live streamed, and it will be absolutely free to watch that whenever they do put it online. The way that Christopher is wording it is sort of strange. The feeling that I get is that at some point very quickly after the event itself, they'll put the thing up online. You can play it once, or maybe it'll even like stream live to everyone at one time, in an actual broadcast type format. And then after that, surely they'll sell it. I know many of us will want to keep it forever, and like, why not give us a chance to give you money for it? Particularly since you've got this nice video company involved.
Yeah.
They're also doing a documentary about, people's reaction to Anne and Anne's works. And you can be a part of that. Christopher's got information on his Facebook page. And if you sign up at annrice.com for the newsletter about that celebration of life, you'll get the information on, giving your own video testimonial, which Ashley, we've been picking on you for a couple of weeks now about not making your hotel reservations, I want to pick on myself. I keep saying I'm going to tell my little story about how I fell in love with Lestat, reading the prologue to Tale of the Body Thief, and then had to fight a librarian to get to him.
You definitely need to. You have a very good origin
absolutely
story.
Right. Well, I've told it so many times. I've really polished it to a shine. Excuse me. I was choking on something there.
It's probably fucking pollen. I'm dying.
There is a lot of pollen, honestly, in my nasal cavities right now. I did yard work this morning while I finished listening to this book, or finished this section of the book anyway. Okay, we could do all sorts of things. There was lots of feedback generally. I will just say thank you to everybody who hung out with us on the live stream
it was
last
so
week.
Fun.
It really was a blast. Ashley and I were just talking about it off air. It was so much fun to do, but also it's been fun to hear even those of you who weren't there in person, but then listen to it afterwards. The enjoyment came through, and you enjoyed that episode, even though you weren't there in person. That's awesome. We'll do more of those. There's already one on the schedule, so try to make that next one. We'll move them around time-wise like that as much as we can, and see if we can't hit everybody's schedule eventually. Okay, let's just get into this book, because there is a lot of feedback on the book from the various corners of our fandom. I did see several people on YouTube that said, "Oh, this is my favorite. Please, please, please do Blackwood Farm. Can't wait for y'all to discuss Blackwood Farm, etc., etc." I dove into the Discord today for the first time in a while.
Been in there in
so we've got a Facebook group. Yeah, right, me neither. Terrible. I'll be very honest. I don't do Discord. It's not in my rotation of things. And so we have a Discord set up. There's always a link in the show notes for our Facebook group and our Discord group, because I know a lot of you, I say Discord, I think it's Discord server technically. Anyway, we have a Discord.
We're discordant there.
We're discordant. Exactly. We are discordant. I originally got excited about the Discord. Many people had asked me to do one in the past, but for various reasons, but mostly they're like, "Hey, I'm not going to do Facebook. I love what y'all talk about in the Facebook group. Could we put that somewhere else? Have you thought about a Discord?" So we set one up. Somebody volunteered to be an admin, and I think we've got a couple of volunteer admins in there. Yeah, thank goodness, right? But genuinely though, I haven't been in there in a while. I do remember though, one of the reasons why we got excited about it in particular was for the book clubs, because it felt like the threaded nature of Discord would be better for books than Facebook group is, and it absolutely has been that. And all of the books have pretty lengthy discussions in them or about them if you go and look, and it's broken down in pieces. Anyway, very, very cool stuff. I scrolled through the Blackwood Farm section today and got quite a lot of feedback from people. But again, generally, it was just, there is an overwhelming sentiment for this book that I did not have personally and didn't remember, actually. What about you?
Well, I didn't remember it for sure, and I didn't feel that connection to it. But this reread, of course, I'm in a very different place than I was when I read it the first time, obviously. And I think I was annoyed that Lestat was there, but I wasn't hearing Lestat. I think it's kind of my attitude that I had about it. But I'm really
especially since she finally brought him, right? You have to put yourself in our shoes at the time. He's been gone since Memnoch.
He's been asleep.
And then he's teased.
Are you fucking kidding me?
He's teased us twice at the end of two separate novels, at the end of Armand and at the end of what did we just finish? Merrick. And yeah, it's like, just give us the fucking Prince. Thank you very much.
But this read, I'm so enjoying these characters. I'm so enjoying
very much
all of his family. I'm enjoying Quinn. I'm enjoying his entire family. I find so interesting. Everybody that lives in that house is so interesting to me. What a weird little family.
Strange little family, and we're going to get into that for sure. It is interesting to me that she wrote yet another fucked up family, and then was like, actually, they're Mayfairs too, sort of.
Yeah.
But she ties them to the Mayfairs again and again and again in this story, even early on. Very, very Okay, here I'm going to break the seal first of all, and I'm going to do one little piece of feedback before I get to my
Okay.
thing. Discord. This comes from Miss Luckless on Discord. I love this book so much. Quinn is such an interesting character, though I will say he is very passionate and a little fickle. He falls in and out of love very quickly. On some level, the way he acts towards Goblin, he alternates between he is my brother, my best friend, to he is the biggest annoyance and the epitome of evil, though I do take into consideration I've never been in his shoes and any constant presence would get on your nerves inevitably. Lol. Yeah, I absolutely.
Especially if that presence is fucking taking little tiny bites at you. Little shit.
Yeah, I mean, after he becomes a vampire, Goblin becomes a nuisance of a different kind. You're absolutely right. But even before that, the cycles that she describes are absolutely real. But it does remind me. I mean, you are not an only child. Neither am I. But if you are an only child, maybe you don't know this. I mean, that is having a sibling, right? Like, I mean, the joke is they're breathing my air, they're looking at me or whatever. But like, there really are fights based on
Literally.
something as small as
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. They're breathing too loud. They've crossed over into my area of the car seat in the back of the car. Fuck you. Respect the boundaries. No. Goblin is not a respecter of boundaries.
No, Goblin has no boundaries at all. Okay, so here's the thing that occurs to me as I start getting into this book. I was like, wait a minute, that's weird. That's weird. I'd forgotten that Quinn's from North Louisiana. That's Northeast Louisiana, even. It's my neck of the woods. Oh yeah, Quinn. This whole thing starts because Quinn's read all the Vampire Chronicles.
Right.
That's right. And he believed him. He loved Lestat, and he just goes to look the motherfucker up. That's right. I forgot. Oh, and then he brings Lestat back home, the place where he lives with his mom and his aunt that he really loves and get alongs with super well. His aunt that's well dressed and like well traveled and has seen the world. And his aunt loves Lestat just as much as he does, actually. And Lestat falls in love with him and his aunt, and everybody lives happily ever after. Ashley, Anne Rice wrote Joel Sharpton Felfinsert fan fiction in 2003.
You were a little drop-in character. Look at you.
And I was telling this to my sons earlier, and one of them was like, well, you didn't live in like a big manor home in the bayou. And I was like, first of all, there's not really that much bayou in Northeast Louisiana, although I did correct my wife. There is some. There was specifically this stretch of bayou. So there's a man-made reservoir in Bastrop, Louisiana called Bussy Break, where I went fishing a lot when I was a kid. But near Bussy, like across the street from Bussy, there is a bayou, which I can't remember the name of. But we, like, my grandfather ran trot lines there, and we would like go fishing there all the time and stuff. So there are bayous in Northeast Louisiana. There is no town named Rubyville, and there's not a West Ruby River, I don't believe. I looked up several of these things. Also, I just want to make a culpa here for real to Charlaine Harris. I have picked on Charlaine Harris so many times over the years because of how she squashes the geography of Louisiana when it's convenient for her. And they did it even worse in the TV series of True Blood. But Charlaine Harris, by the way, if you don't know, is the author of the it's not, what are they called? The Sookie Stackhouse murder mysteries or whatever. Yeah, the Sookie Stackhouse books that True Blood, the HBO series, was based on. Charlaine Harris wrote those.
We have called out Charlaine her fuckery a few times.
Well, like the show does an even worse job of it because like Shreveport, New Orleans, and Shreveport and Monroe are like 5 minutes apart from each other each. But even in her books, though, like she'll be like, we were in Shreveport and we stopped for gas in Ruston and drove through Louisiana Tech's campus. But it's like 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes later they're in South Arkansas somewhere, and it's like, okay, those places are close. But anyway, this is geographic nitpicking on a scale that I guess I shouldn't do. But there is nowhere geographically that you can describe as Northeast Louisiana that is also an hour and a half from New Orleans. I'm sorry.
No.
So anyway, Anne fucked up the geography of the state too.
Also, like,
she wanted to put this in like 3 different places.
Yeah, that's very true. Northeast Louisiana is like you're talking like more delta than like swamp too. Like, I mean, we kind of share a lot of the same geography in Arkansas and Louisiana. And there are
Yes.
some really fucking swampy spots in South Arkansas and North Louisiana, but they're not at the northeast side of the state.
I will admit, though, I sort of fell for Quinn pretty early in this one, even though he is especially in the audiobook version, if you listen to that, the young man who is doing the narration. Oh, he's doing all the wrong things I mean, he basically sounds like Kevin Spacey's character in House of Cards here. He's got that high money southern accent that everybody goes to, which is not exactly how Quinn would sound, but it's fine. My biggest problem with the narration well, I guess it's twofold. First of all, I do not care for his Lestat when Lestat speaks through him.
Right.
I don't like his take on it. I'm on record. Simon Vance is the man. His Lestat is amazing. This is not that.
Simon Vance.
Worse than that, though, Ashley. This is the primary offense of this narrator. He says the word pirogue over and over and over and over again. And I just think to myself, was there no one in the studio process at any
Give
point?
you a little correction there?
That Pirogue, and maybe, again, if you're not from this area, but like, you have to know there are no hard G's in French. For the record, that word phonetically is pronounced PEE-ROH. That is pirogue.
Look, listen, we can't pretend like there isn't a place in Louisiana called Shoudrant. So let's not act like Louisiana knows how to fucking pronounce French words.
There's a place in Louisiana called Vienna, which is just down the road.
Fucking insane. Like the sausage,
they will
y'all.
correct you on that one too.
Like the fucking sausage. Not Vienna. Vienna.
If you find my letter, and I genuinely believe you will, you know I've already broken your rules. I love that this starts with him writing a letter to Lestat, but not him. Like, we're not reading, again, it was a shock at first. We're not reading the letter from Lestat's perspective. Quinn is writing the letter and reading it to us, and then narrates his trip to New Orleans to drop it off.
I'm really glad. I gotta say, Joel, right now I'm just really glad I didn't fuck with the audiobook of this yet. That sounds rough.
Now read this one.
That sounds rough. I'm enjoying my read.
He's fine, but his southern is a bit over the top, and the pirogue, you'd be surprised how much that comes up in this book. Like, the first time he said it, I was like, boy, I really hope from now on he just calls it a boat, right?
Yeah.
No, he calls it pirogue throughout. Yep. It looks like, anyway. As we wrapped up this section, we got done with chapter 10. What does he do? He collects his things and gets in the pirogue to go out in the bayou. And I was just like, oh,
I love it. It's ridiculous.
Oh, there's no G. There's no hard G's. There's no hard G's. This creature, a duplicate of me who's grown with me since before I can remember, now poses a threat to humans as well as myself. What a great fucking problem of the novel, and what a way to just jump straight into it, right? This is the antithesis of what we complained about a little bit in Merrick,
right?
In that she sets up this great idea of, hey, I'm going to tell this story about getting Claudia's ghost. Claudia's ghost don't come into that shit until so late in the book, and they're like, oh yeah,
and then it's done in a chapter. And then it's just about Louis feeling shitty about it.
Yeah. And then a little Deus Ex Lestat. Goblin is such an interesting take, though, particularly at this point in this series. We were introduced to the idea of Amel. We've been introduced to the idea of Lasher, as in spirits in this universe who are desperate in one way or another to become corporeal.
Right. And who maybe aren't exactly ghosts. Not exactly a ghost.
Nope.
But kind of a spirit, but not a ghost. But
or at least not clearly a ghost in either case, right? Like Lasher, especially early on, it's very unclear what he is or where he comes from. And then Amel, if he were a spirit, at this point in the novels at least, there's no reason to believe he is a spirit unless he was literally like one of the most ancient, I say a spirit, if he were a ghost. There's no reason to believe that he is a ghost unless he's one of the most ancient creatures on Earth, that became a ghost or whatever. One of the first sentiences or something.
The first ghost.
Because he has no memory. Like what he does have memory of is first forming a consciousness and a will together and drawing himself up for the first time.
Like forming himself. Same thing with Lasher. Energy.
Yeah, like Lasher remembers pretty clearly and talks about it different times. Like that first time that a Mayfair called to him and he sort of like incorporated for her and drew his will down into her. Anyway, what we know about spirits at this point in the novel, it is interesting to meet a character like Goblin. And it is an interesting mystery to have laid out for us. And the fact that they just really get right into it was just very pleasing for me. I was like, okay.
I really enjoyed, though I was trying to read, I was in a hurry and I was trying to read fast. I got to that long ass chapter about like his childhood and his life. And I fucking loved that. It was so interesting because when I first started reading this and I was like, Goblin, that's such a fucking like, what the fuck, Anne? Goblin? What the fuck is this?
Yeah, why Goblin?
But it's such a child thing. It's such a little kid.
Yes.
Like it's a little kid's understanding of what. So of course, when he names him something that a kid would name him,
Well, and it's especially interesting towards that section you're talking about where we get the long childhood thing. We realize that like Goblin doesn't have any intelligence that he and Quinn didn't work out together either, right? Like he grew as Quinn grew. There was a moment where he advanced far beyond Quinn because he spent all of his time in education, basically.
Just listening.
But then pretty quickly, Quinn surpassed him again and always has stayed ahead of him a little bit intelligence-wise since then. Anyway, it's interesting that this spirit exists and all. It's interesting why and how this all unfolds for us. But it is particularly interesting to me that right from the start, they're like, this is a real issue because he is drawing blood into himself every time I feed.
And he's getting stronger.
Quinn is specifically worried about what if he becomes the second Amel somehow and starts a whole new race of emperors? I mean, that's what he's concerned about. And I don't think he's wrong to be so concerned
because we don't
the way that this is going.
Understand what this creature is. We have no real understanding of what Goblin is,
Well, and Lestat even says it about when they're talking about what happened with Amel. He says, all we know is the stories handed down to us from the ancients.
Absolutely.
And that goes even from the guy that drank from Akasha who was there. Like realistically, Akasha doesn't exactly know what happened. She knows what she thinks happened. Yeah. And everybody else honestly thought it was Inkle, not her. Akasha, that was the first one, right? So yeah, anyway. I mean it goes to show you.
It goes to show you.
Okay. Many times he came of his own accord and would not be banished. I thought that was interesting. Like, again, even before the blood, sometimes Goblin's will could supersede Quinn's, and at other times he could be very easily influenced.
Well, because he has some level of sentience. He has some level of like self-determination, because he can come and go, and like he'll punish Quinn sometimes. Like if you've been mean to me and I just won't come back for a little while, you'll want me to come back and I won't, and so it's all this very manipulative, and and remembering how it all plays out, of course that's how this whole dynamic is, but kind of reading it and trying to read it with like really fresh newborn baby eyes, and not remember what I know, in the end is a fun way to approach it, because it is really interesting, the dynamic and the way that the pushing and the like the annoyance, but then that need to like have someone around, to be with somebody, to not be alone, I love it. It's very interesting.
So we don't meet Quinn's maker right away anyway, and we don't even learn that much about him early in this novel. But when we meet Quinn, he's already become a vampire, except they don't call themselves vampires. They call themselves blood hunters, which I thought was interesting, particularly since, in the Vampire Lestat, and more than that in the Queen of the Damned novels, we see that like so much of vampire culture has really been influenced by these novels. So the words that Lestat uses and the words that Louis used in the first novel that were based on what Lestat had told him, all of that like really is basically whatever, like everybody started referring to it as a little drink. Everybody started calling it the Savage Garden.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And his maker, Quinn's maker, has adopted some of that language. They talk about the cloud gift and the mind gift and the fire gift, et cetera, et cetera. But they had this whole other name. They called themselves blood hunters. I thought that was interesting.
It's so interesting that it doesn't feel like this book is about Quinn being a vampire at all.
No, it's not really. It's like that is a thing that happened.
He just happens to be a vampire. He's dealing with this weird situation he's been dealing with since he was a kid.
Yes. The thing, it's like his malady was exacerbated because he became a vampire. Yeah. And so now he's got to deal with this thing that he thought he had, like not overcome, but like
under some sort of control,
Yes. Yeah. It was like, I found the accessibility settings I needed to handle my issue, but now things are different.
My clingy friend I can deal with.
So, okay, when we meet him, though, Quinn already has the cloud gift. He's got the mind gift and the fire gift. And it is interesting to me and like convenient for Anne that she brings this new character in. She's like, yeah, he's got all the toys.
He's already super powered. We don't have to, we don't even have to get into it. It's fine.
At the end of his letter, he's written, I want you, the great breaker of rules, to forgive me that I have broken yours. And I gotta say, the great breaker of rules is a pretty okay. So the last trilogy of novels in the series is called the Prince Lestat trilogy. If I were Prince Lestat, I would add great breaker of rules to my list of titles, like I'm Khaleesi, right?
Yes, the tagline. It's your tagline.
All right, we get our first mention of Talamaska members Sterling Oliver and Mona Mayfair as like members of Quinn's life that have now been left behind because he's become a vampire. He was friends with Sterling Oliver. He knew the Talamaska because his family had connected with them originally because of Goblin to see if there was something to be done or whatever. He had a nice relationship with Sterling, although as normal, and I'll skip ahead here because it comes up a little later, but Anne just can't help herself. I've thought this whole time at this point, I'm like, oh, Sterling's like a great mentor or maybe an older brother or a father figure for Quinn. Lust, old and new. You barely get to know Sterling in this novel at all.
And Anne just can't help
a pervert. Give us a heavy hint he was a kid fiddler. Hey, listen.
But Anne.
If there is a white British man in these novels, you just go ahead and assume
that he likes them young.
He likes children.
Likes them young.
Damn it, Anne.
God damn it, Anne. She did not have a strong opinion on old white men.
Apparently, she throws a curveball, though, on that later when we're talking about Quinn's childhood. We'll get back to that in a second. But I love, though, the idea that Mona is sort of like a specter over this book, at least the early part, because it's like he's so in love with Mona and he knows he has to have closure with Mona in some way, and yet he can't imagine that he'll ever bring Mona into the blood. Right. And I'm like, yeah, dude, if you make it through this little adventure with Goblin and Lestat, you will absolutely bring Mona into the blood. Don't even we all know that's going to happen. Do you remember how there was just a whole book about how Louis and David weren't going to turn Merrick
into a vampire? Yeah.
How'd that? Oh, that's right.
She's
Merrick's
a fucking
with
vampire.
Lestat.
Lord.
Also, what the fuck is wrong with Lestat? That this dude shows up, gives him this story about how I'm being troubled by a spirit, And the two witches that are living in his house, he doesn't bother to wake them up and bring them along for the ride either.
It'd be helpful.
I'm like, it
might be helpful.
Fucking. Oh my goodness.
He's not looking to problem solve right now.
No, he's not. All right. So there's a good line right about here too, though. He's written in there about Mona, and so he references your Merrick Mayfair may not even know her, but they are from the same family of powerful psychics. They seem to delight in calling themselves witches. And y'all, this is why Ashley and I had a whole laughing fit last week talking about whether or not Mayfair season 3 is going to go to broom riding. The Mayfairs are not witches. I know that's what the name of the book is, The Lives of the Mayfair Witches. That's because they seem to delight in calling themselves witches.
It's tongue-in-cheek, you see. It's tongue-in-cheek, Joel.
3 of them in 500 years do ritual magic. Everybody else is just a psychic. Everybody else is just a psychic.
Which is impressive.
And, like, some of them are telekinetic. They can all talk to spirits. Some of them can read minds and shit, but like it's just various degrees of psychic ability. They're all little Professor X's. It's so weird that they're like, let's go to Salem. Why? Oh God.
Just to piss us off.
I mean, AMC's even, don't they have a show called Salem already?
I'm not sure if it was
need...
AMC, but there was definitely a witch show, a Salem-based witch show recently. Like a modern, maybe it wasn't modern day. I could be talking out of my ass. It's possible.
So Sugar Devil Island in Sugar Devil Swamp, fed by the West Ruby River, where it breaks off of the Ruby River at Rubyville. All right. Where she wants this to be is probably somewhere like Rayville, Louisiana, which is like 30-ish minutes from the Mississippi River. It's in that like Delta farmland area. There aren't really bayous in Rayville, Louisiana, and there's definitely no big ass manor homes like this in Rayville, and there is no Rubyville in Louisiana. There is a I looked this up actually earlier. There's no town or community named Rubyville in Louisiana. The search results indicate that there is a town called Ruby in Rapides Parish and a town called Rayville in Richland Parish. Additionally, there are other communities with names like Rosaryville, which I did not know there was a Rosaryville, Louisiana, but there you go. But yeah, and sort of squeezed a bunch of different places together. It's why in my head, I think it's why I didn't connect with Quinn so directly as like a self-insert character for me, because it's really in Acadiana. You know, it's like, it's in the middle of the state, barely, where you can get back and forth to New Orleans in an hour and a half. But she also wants it to be vastly different than where Lestat lives.
Yeah,
and
she's
so
just trying to set.
She just squeezes it together.
Yeah, she's just trying to set up a very different locale. And I like it. I like this house. I like the people bustling in and around it. You know, this is a very interesting place to have grown up. Like, he has a very interesting childhood.
He does. I will say it occurred. So a few things. First of all, I'll just say that Quinn is absolutely in love with his own image as much as Lestat is. They make great companions.
Well, he has his own doppelganger that he seems to have conjured out of the air.
Okay. But early, when he's still writing the letter, I think in the letter, he even goes into a section. Maybe it's not in the letter. Maybe it's in the narration afterwards. But he goes into a section where he describes himself. And it's so much like Lestat. It's great. I'm 6'4" and have very straight hair
impressive.
and a thin but powerful beard. The only reason that you know I'm masculine, though, is because of my height. You know, I have such beautiful and soft features.
Yes, I'm like
anyway.
I have beautiful lady lips. Like a cupid's bow.
And he describes the cameo that he's had made for his aunt in case Lestat kills him. It's so beautiful he almost can't part with it, and he doesn't give it to her right away.
No, he gives it to Lestat. He doesn't even give it to her. He's like, since I'm a vampire, I don't think I could give this to her now. It would be weird. What does that even mean? You just want to give it to your hot new boyfriend. We get it. We get it.
I think this is the reason. That's the reason why it goes so well with the two of them, though, is that like Lestat sees his own
But yeah,
vanity in Quinn, and he just can't help himself. But it
Riz
is.
recognizes Riz.
I mean, genuinely though, I hear all of y'all that are telling me how much you like this book, and I'm reading it, and I'm going, is it because Quinn read all the Vampire Chronicles and then went to New Orleans? It was like, I wonder if Lestat would love me, and Lestat did
Yeah,
love
so
him
it seems like
actually,
maybe it
and
could
like
happen to any of us if we tried to do that. Maybe.
if we're just pretty enough.
If I was just pretty enough. You know, once
I
you get
bit
turned
the
into a
right
vampire, you
Talamasca and in
get
his.
really pretty. You get even prettier. So, like,
It's true.
Quinn is even prettier than he was. The audacity.
It's true. Some evil dwelt on Sugar Devil Island.
Well, the
You
fuck?
think
Its
with a
name is
name
Sugar
like Sugar Devil
Island.
Island in the Sugar Devil Swamp?
Maybe that was some foreshadowing.
Okay, so we have it in the 10 chapters that we've covered so far in the book, actually. We don't know yet in the novel what's on Sugar Devil Island. But immediately to me, Ashley, this read anyway, I don't know what I thought the last time, but this time I go, oh, that vampire that turned Quinn clearly has been living out in that hermitage before Quinn became a vampire, right? Probably
Oh.
been out there for years. Probably it was the vampire that turned Quinn that fucked up his grandfather's life or whatever, his great grandfather's life or whatever. We'll get to that in a minute too. But like, yeah, okay, evil presence living out in the hermitage. That makes pretty good sense there. I know this story actually.
Fucking evil island, awesome. I bet you got a fucking vampire box too.
So listen, this is not necessarily what I want, but it occurred to me reading some of this book that we absolutely could, if they need to for some reason, we could get a few seasons of this show, meaning Interview with the Vampire, that aren't focused on Lestat or Louis at all.
Yeah.
That tell stories in the universe like around those two now that they're both very famous in universe, right? Like the first book has come out. Lestat's about to go on tour and do all of the Vampire Lestat and one imagines Queen of the Damned things. And after that point, and this would be a better way to do it, in between seasons, if you're going to take like a year and a half or 2 years to do a season of this show, especially as those two become more and more famous and expensive and etc., and your cast gets bigger and your production budgets get bigger and all of those things. As that happens, you could do like a Tales of the Immortal Universe sort of thing.
Or
right?
like a Tales
Where
of the New Vampires, Joel? You mean like what Anne did?
Or yes. I mean, they own those books too. Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
But you could
do
treat
that.
treat it like that. Treat it like that kind of series where it's like, you know, any little side quests you want to take them on, you can.
And then like every, 3 or 4 episodes, you have an appearance or a mention of an Armand or a Eric, a Daniel or a, or a Louis or a Lestat or a whatever. But yeah, you could have them sort of like, I think about what Star Wars has done. Star Wars did this great thing over the last several years where they've done mini animated series called like Tales of. I think they did 2 Tales of the Jedi. They did Tales of the Sith, I think. No? I don't know. They did Tales of the Jedi. They did Tales of the Republic. And then this last year they did Tales of the Underworld, I think is what came out. Anyway, those are fantastic. They tell like a vaguely connected story, but it's like 3 little pieces for each character over the course of their lifetime or something. Anyway, I think there's some really good opportunities, and the moments where Quinn and his maker are discussing Lestat and Louis and these world of the famous vampires, it all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait a minute. AMC could do some really interesting things there. And we may see some of that coming to fruition in the Talamaska series that we're going to talk about. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to talk about as far as news. We'll do that at the end in case. That way we'll leave timestamps and if you don't want to read the book, you can skip ahead and do the timestamps. They'll be in the show notes. I hope people look for them. Anyway, I was struck that there are some interesting opportunities here for AMC to, I don't know, tell some extraneous stuff that would be interesting.
For sure. Like, I mean, if we could get the fucking audience to come along. They'll do whatever they want. They will. If Walking Dead is any indication, they will fucking make 800 versions of a TV show if it works.
It was like being in a very shrine. Quinn finally makes it into the townhouse in New Orleans, and this is what he says to himself. It was like being in a very shrine, and I just thought about how many of our group have taken a picture outside the Gallier house and felt, you could see it on their face, it was like being at a very shrine. Sterling Oliver. Have we gotten a Sterling yet in the Talamaska series? I don't think we
No,
have.
I haven't seen that name. And then the casting.
We saw a new one today. Burton got announced, which is going to be played by we'll talk about Talamaska show at the end. We'll talk about the news at the end. But no, I don't think we've got a Sterling cast. But again, Sterling's one of those I'd kind of forgotten, honestly.
Yeah.
When they first mentioned that he had a friend, a venerable old friend in the Talamaska,
I doesn't everybody?
This was going to be another connection. Well, I thought this was going to be another connection to Aaron, honestly. I'd forgotten that Sterling even existed.
Yeah.
Okay. We hear about Lestat's imperfect eyes here for the first time.
Also, I had completely forgotten that Lestat gets his eye
ripped out in Memnock.
Like until he acknowledges that obviously Quinn has noticed it. It's so funny to me. I was like, I completely forgot that happened to our guy. Of course his eyes aren't perfect anymore.
One slightly larger and colored by blood. And it's so weird because Quinn brings it up and then he's like, of course, it was only perceptible because my eyesight is so good as a vampire.
I'm such a good
and then
vampire.
Like later he's like, I hope he didn't notice me looking at his eye.
That would be embarrassing for him to know that I know that his eyes are not perfect.
But then later Lestat is literally like, I don't know if you've noticed, but one of my eyes is slightly injured. Perhaps you have seen my eye.
You might have noticed with your perceptiveness.
So they get into this little detente here suddenly because Sterling Oliver is so enticing once he shows up in the flat to Quinn. He can't help himself. He ends up attacking Sterling and he's draining him. And then Lestat is there and stops him. But now the three of them are like, all right, what's going to happen? Because one of them could literally just burn the other two to a cinder with his mind, and that would be the end of all of this. Meanwhile, if Sterling gets out of this, first of all, he could bring the Talamaska down on Lestat in some new, more definite way. Or he could tell the Talamaska that Quinn has become a vampire, which they don't know at this point. So it's like bad for everybody, particularly. This is very much one of those situations where, like, okay, for instance, you and I both watched it recently. If Cassian Andor was here, Sterling Oliver doesn't leave the room, right?
Yeah, no, indeed.
But Lestat says, so Sterling is sort of like running down. First of all, he's got nerve. Like, give him that. He stands up to Lestat. He pushes back a couple of times.
You're in his fucking house.
And you've admitted you really had no reason to be there, even though they've got this current, like anger between the Talamaska and the vampires. But still,
said you're there because you wanted to fall in love with you too. Don't lie.
Yeah, that's the fucking truth, honestly. But Lestat asks him, or no, Sterling says, no, Lestat reads Sterling's mind, and he's like, you think that David won't let me kill you, or that Maharet won't let me hurt you. And Lestat says, I could do it, I don't mind breaking the rules. I'm fairly well known for it, actually. And then he says, as to the ancient ones, don't be so sure they want to govern. I think they want utter privacy and complete peace, which, first of all, I think is probably true and accurate, especially with Maharet at this time.
If I were Marius, who's been lugging around two fucking dead-ass vampires for the last 2,000 years, then by God, I would want to sit my fucking fat ass down with my pretty lady friend and chill the fuck out for a little while.
It's also, though, like a subtle threat to Sterling here, because
Yeah,
he's like,
subtle.
listen,
No,
Maharet won't be happy if I rip your
you're not
head
gonna
off.
kill me.
But she's not going to start a war over it. That what they really want is peace. And so if I promise that I'll be good after I rip your head off, they'll mostly leave me alone,
Fine
actually.
by me.
Yeah. All right. We leave Sterling. He goes away and agrees to Lestat's terms. First and foremost, he's going to go tell the Talamasca, the elders especially, hey, you got to stop this fucking game with me. Like, I'll do what you want. First of all, you've talked to me. Now you've got what you really want. But also, like, okay, fine. I'll be a little more patient, a little more quiet, a little more unassuming in my existence. But fuck
Yeah.
off. Like let's stop this fight. You didn't want it in the first place either. Like, I know
It's
that.
pointless. It's
Yeah.
just like a flex. It's just a fucking
And
flex.
two, if you saw Quinn, no, you didn't. Quinn wasn't here. Quinn who? You don't know a Quinn. You've never met a Quinn. You don't know nothing about Tarquin. Which I thought was interesting that he's like, these are not the Tarquins you seek.
Yeah, these are not this is not the vampire you came here looking for, actually.
So we head to North Louisiana, and we're going to meet some of the extended characters here, Aunt Queen and Jasmine. So, okay, you mentioned earlier we were talking about Tarquin, and in different ways, Quinn is very interesting and a very compelling character and a very likable character. But like, here's a perfect example of how like Anne's own short-sightedness, I think, and own privilege kind of shines through here. Quinn is such a member of the big house family. Like, right? He's raised by like this family of black women. And it's not, he doesn't look down on them, and he praises all of them. But the way he refers to them and discusses them is so based on their physicality and nothing else. And it's like, he has felt about these
you think
people
there might be microaggressions
like servants and decoration
in that home, Joel?
I mean, he makes this family of women sleep with him until he's 16 and has his first ghost fucking, and then they're like, hey, you're too old to sleep with me. He's like,
I'm not.
No, I'm not. I'll ghost fuck later. You just go back to sleep, old lady. Don't even worry about it.
I'll keep my ghost fucking in the afternoons.
Jasmine, this is how she's described. She was beautifully built, and her skin was a lovely color of milk chocolate. Her eyes were hazel, her hair extremely woolly. Bleached blonde, by the way, he points out. And Jasmine, when she first grabs him and says hello to him here in the book, she says, that's my little boss, my mysterious little boss. Shoves his head into her bosoms, and then he whispers to her, you're my girlfriend forever. Y'all, I don't think Quinn has a healthy relationship with a single woman in his entire life.
No,
right?
Indeed.
No,
indeed. No, it's not as bad as it could be, but it's not good.
It's all of them are a little tainted,
off.
friend.
Everything in this house is a little off, like that's the thing. Everything is just
it's a true story.
Little squiggy. It's like when you go to like when you go to the Crescent Hotel, which is supposed to be like one of the most haunted hotels in the world. It's in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. It's a really cool building. And I saw some really fucked up shit staying in a cottage on those grounds. Didn't really see anything creepy in the hotel itself, but that's in part because like everything in there is just a little off. Like the mirrors are just a little hung a little off, and like oh, maybe that fan is bucking just a little hard, and like it's just like something is just not quite right everywhere. And that's how I feel about this house. I'm so interested because my god, how could I not be? This is weird as shit.
So Quinn introduces Lestat to the family, and it was an interesting moment, and this is something that I have had to correct myself with over the years. He pronounces his own name to Aunt Queen and says Lestat, accent on the second syllable, specifically calls it out. Lestat is how you pronounce it. Lesdot is how you would almost spell it out phonetically. I don't think Anne had ever pronounced the name out like that in the text. I don't think before
I
that.
don't think so either. Well, it's like when they had to, Hermione had to teach the like fucking
Yes.
German kid how to say her name because no one knew how to say Hermione.
So Aunt Queen is going on and on about how good Lestat looks and what a powerfully built young man
And
he
she loves his
is.
buttons. Look at his
And
buttons and his frock
how,
coat.
yeah, a frock coat. And I love that Lestat mentions, you know, in this day and age, a rock star can get away
Right.
with
I'm a
a frock coat.
musician.
You could call me a goth, I think. Isn't that right, Quinn? Don't they call well-dressed men out of time a goth in this age? Yes, Lestat, I believe that's
You're a
correct.
little gothy, baby.
Also, we get, and I don't think this has been anywhere else in the books until this point either. Aunt Queen asks if his name means anything, and Lestat says, as I recall, it was compounded of the first letters of my 6 older brothers' names, all of whom, the brothers and their names, I grew to despise.
Fuck him.
There is a great, Queen loves him, by the way, right off the bat.
Fabulous.
She's like, I love the sass.
Right off the bat, I love this woman. I love Queen immediately.
So this is very much, again, another piece of like the self-insert fan fiction here. Like,
right.
It is my aunt that first turned me on to Anne Rice and this world, and Lestat in particular. Like, my aunt is the one who's always preferred horror books. My mom didn't read a ton of horror other than like a handful of Stephen King. You know, my aunt was more traveled than my mom and dad were. Like, she went to Greece like for a whole summer one time with her best friend, and she had lived in Houston, and she had lived in New Orleans and Baton Rouge and all these places, you know, Lake Charles or whatever. She was my avenue into New Orleans too. I would go with Anne to visit her friend Gwen, who lived there and grew up there, and like we would go out in New Orleans together. I remember after Planet Hollywood opened, I could not, I was like, please take me to Planet Hollywood. I might see Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis. It was like literally, it was the hope of my life at that time to see Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger in person. Sly Stallone would have been fine, but those two were the two that I wanted to see. Yeah. Anyway, we did. They took me to Hard Rock Cafe. They took me to Planet Hollywood over the years. We did all the things in New Orleans. And while my Aunt Anne was not nearly as old as Aunt Queen as far as in relation to Quinn, because Aunt Queen is really his great aunt. Actually, it's not his actual aunt, but still, I was very much in tune with that, and like, oh, I also had an aunt that I loved and connected with in a way that, like, maybe even at times better than I got along with my mom or my dad. You know,
that's awesome. Cool aunts are the fucking best, y'all.
Are the fucking best. All right. There is an amazing quote in here, which I think I've mentioned before on the show, but this is the one. If I was ever going to get a quote from the Vampire Chronicles tattooed, this would be it. And it's so long, I don't know how I would put it exactly, but they're talking about their upbringing, Quinn and Queen and Lestat. And Lestat says, the young are eternally desperate, and books, they offer one hope, that a whole universe might open up from between the covers, and falling into that new universe, one is saved. So my conception is I want a big open face book, and then across the 2 open pages, books, they offer one hope, that a whole universe might open up from between the covers, and falling into that new universe, one is saved. Like, that's a lot of text. I don't know how you'd put it on there.
You get an artist,
maybe I could write it up my arm.
They
maybe
do it. You just tell them what you want, and they come up with the idea. It's a great quote.
That's it.
That's
though,
a
right?
great quote, and it's true. Like, as someone who used books to escape things in my life, like especially as a child, like, I mean, I was a voracious reader, but that was like dissociating really hard, you know?
Well, okay. I think that is that. First of all, that's partially true. Yes, we were dissociating, and we were, you know, dopamine dropping in a way that we might do now through TikTok or drug use or whatever, right? But I also think, though, Ashley, books are therapy.
No, they
I mean,
are.
art period is therapy. We've talked about this in the past. Like when you watch a horror movie, we can take a concept or a trauma that we are actively actually dealing with in reality and remove it from ourselves in a way that we can process it and look at it in a
Right.
way that's safe. It's like roller coasters prepare us for times when we're actually going to be in danger or whatever. How do you process an emotion where you were off kilter or unbalanced or whatever? Um, I know for a fact that I have dealt with a lot of my trauma through the works
Oh.
of Anne Rice in
Oh
particular, you know?
man. So, and just to get to go on these journeys and adventures, to get to be able to open up your mind and to be able to be like to let yourself go somewhere, to allow yourself that whimsy of that, as an adult, especially, I think so many people don't allow themselves to have that kind of like connection to a fictitious world. It feels like irresponsible somehow, but I think it's so wonderful to be able to do that, to be able to connect to the written word in such a way that you can be transported wherever you want to go. I've always loved that. It's books are
Incredibly
fucking
important.
magic.
Yeah. Yeah. They really, really are. Um, and man, she knew how to put it too. She
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Aunt Queen here has known Lestat for, all of 10 minutes, maybe. And she starts telling this motherfucker things she's never told Quinn and never brought up in her life. It's so weird. I mean, maybe she feels some aspect of like who Lestat is, or like that he's beyond or above or whatever. But like she starts telling him about her grandfather, and we go, okay, Aunt Queen's grandfather killed his
Yeah,
wife,
that was fucking
probably. And then you're like, oh
crazy.
wait, no, probably killed all of his wives except maybe the first one that he
That he
was
really
mourning
liked.
this whole time. Yeah, the one that he really liked. All the rest of them were bad, he says to her. Um, Also, he did it as offerings to he gave them all up to the bloody chains. What, ma'am? You're just bringing this out at dinner?
Yeah. That's a weird cocktail conversation, is what that is. I mean, I'm into
What?
it. Tell me more. You got a murderous grandfather. I want to hear all the stories. But yeah, this is yeah.
Uh I love, again, there's a little thing here in these chapters where Aunt Queen is talking about, she's kind of ragging on Quinn about like, where have you been so often now? If I rise at an
Yeah.
appropriate hour and I want to go somewhere, you're nowhere to be found, Quinn. I love, though, again, this separation from Aunt Quinn and Aunt Queen and Quinn. It's like a very pretty metaphor for growing up, right? Like we do this from our parents and from our siblings and
Oh
from our
yeah.
beloved aunts and uncles. You know, the niece and nephew has a little less time for you at 16 than they had at 15, little less time for you at 17 than they had at 16, suddenly no time at
Yeah.
all at
And then they're in
18 to
college and you don't have
25,
time to
you
do
know.
shit.
And then they have their own children and a marriage and a business and a job, and all of a sudden, like, I mean, it is the, again, it's like the great but silly Yoda quote from what I think is the best Star Wars movie of the recent times, The Last Jedi. We are what they grow beyond, you know. Um and seeing it happen with four people that I helped make, it's fucking weird and sad, but also if they don't grow beyond you, you are reveling in their
Yeah.
stunted development, in their lack of
Yeah.
development, in their lack of independence. What happens when you die, which we all will, as that asshole senator told her constituents recently when they asked what they were going to do since she was throwing them off Medicaid? Well, we're all
Everybody's
going to
gonna die
die.
someday.
Fuck you, lady. Anyway, I loved it. It's a small thing here, and I don't even know that Anne was thinking about it necessarily, but like this little picture of how Quinn, in his immortal nature, is slowly leaving Queen behind. It's what we all do with our family members anyway. It's kind of interesting. All right, we go into the childhood of Quinn, and we hear about Linnell. This was the first big note that I wanted to take. The first his first good
Yes.
teacher. She opens the world up to Quinn and to Goblin, honestly. Um, and it's Linnell's death that starts the slide into chaos for Quinn, and what ends up causing all the rest of this story.
Yeah, I think that if she hadn't died, if she had just, had just taken another job, that this would be a very different tale of tales here.
So, did you get the impression, again, at this point in the book, like neither one of us remember it very well, maybe there's an obvious answer that happens later in the novel. I got the impression that we're supposed to think maybe something happened to Linnell, like maybe this was on purpose in some fashion.
Well, I did not pick that up.
It seemed mysterious. No, you didn't?
No, it just seemed like a bad car accident.
Okay, maybe it's just a matter of like in the last book, Merrick has that whole thing in her childhood where she thinks she might have caused the deadly car accident of her mother and sister. Right. And here I'm like, did Goblin cause her to? But then very quickly, Goblin doesn't even know that Linnell's dead, right? And doesn't understand.
He doesn't understand what death is.
So that doesn't make any sense. Could it possibly be our eventual evil presence on the island? I don't know. Anyway, right now I'm a little skeptical about Linnell's death. Ashley, we talked about how cool ants are already, but did you have somebody in your life that like opened up the world of movies to you, or opened up the world of music to you like Linnell does for them?
I think for me, that was probably my dad. My dad was such a lover of movies and music and things like I had a whole conversation last night with a friend of mine about Neil Diamond. We were just talking about, because turns out this guy I'm friends with, I had no idea he's a huge Neil Diamond fan. He saw Neil Diamond 9 times in concert. I was like, holy shit.
That is a huge Neil Diamond fan.
And he's not like an old man. He's, younger than me. So I was having a conversation about that last night, and it really put me in that mind. I was like, my dad was so great about, and he would make me watch horrible shit. He made me watch The Deer Hunter. I thought I was going to fucking die. That movie is so horrible. It's horrifying. It's a wonderful fucking film, but it's horrifying, and it's horrible. God, that fucking Russian roulette.
Well, especially
scene.
For a child. Yeah. You were what? 12, 13, 14 years old?
Yeah, I was probably like early teens. Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely my dad was definitely the one for me that was like,
we're going to do a double feature, honey. We're going to do The Deer Hunter, then it's Eyes Wide Shut in the evening. Don't even worry about it.
God, Deer Hunter and fucking, what is it? The dark, Heart of Darkness. It's based on Heart of Darkness. Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now.
That's more the double feature. Story. That's more the double feature that I was in for.
I had a friend when I was in college. He had graduated from college like probably 10 years before. He was about 10 years older than me. Not exactly. I mean, still is. One imagines he's out there. Anyway, he had done service. He had been in the Air Force, I think was his service. Anyway, he was out of the military at this time and was back in his college town, like not exactly sure what was the next phase of life, right? So he was doing all sorts of crazy stuff, including, among other things, he was a substitute teacher for a long time too. And he got this one gig in particular where he did like, I don't know, like 6 months as a substitute gig for like a history teacher or something like that.
A long-term sub.
And I remember very vividly one morning, he called me, like just as I was waking up at like 9:30, 10 o'clock or something like that. And he's like, hey man, what you doing today? I was like, I don't know. I just woke up. What are you doing? He goes, well, I'm giving my finals right now, but I'll be done at noon. You, want me to come over? We'll get real stoned and watch Apocalypse Now.
Yes.
It was like, hell yes,
Let's definitely do that.
So we were like halfway through Apocalypse Now. We were both blasted out of our minds. And for some reason, I was like, pause. I turned and looked at him. I was like, you know what I got in the kitchen? He goes, what? I was like, biscuits and bacon. You want me to make breakfast? It's like at 2 o'clock. we had both a plate full
Fucking
of biscuits and
brunch.
like microwavable bacon
Yes.
while we watched Apocalypse Now.
Now.
The horror, the
The
horror.
horror. The horror. But the biscuits were so good.
The biscuits were so good. Linnell, for me, there were two people that are sort of my Linnells. So I had this babysitter. I had to call my mom and get the name to be 100% sure that I knew, that I remembered. There was this woman that babysat us who ended up being like distantly related to a girl I went to like elementary school, junior high, and high school with too. But she babysat me and my baby sister, and she was actually the one that like for the first time dressed my baby sister up like a fancy doll. Like she did the bows in her hair and the matching dress and the whole thing. My mom worked like the whole time we were going through our childhood. Like she worked a full-time job, so she didn't do my sister in like the fancy outfits very often, but like bloomers and the whole nine yards would take pictures of her and everything.
Ridiculous.
Anyway, one of the many things that Joe liked to do, that was this woman's name, Joe, and she was like barely in her 20s, I think, when she was babysitting us, but she loved movies, and she would go, she'd take us to the video store, we'd rent movies, and we'd watch all of these movies that were, in retrospect, totally inappropriate. For instance, I was maybe 5 years old when we watched Grease for the first time.
Yeah.
You know that ain't no shit. We'll be getting lots of Grease lightning. This woman was Pentecostal, by the way, so I don't know exactly why she liked raunchy movies. She showed me Critters when I was probably 5 or 6.
Yeah,
the first Critters movie.
Great. I rewatched that last year. It's so ridiculous.
Fantastic. So Joe was one of those that like opened me up to a world of cinema that I probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. And then the other one that I think about all the time, and there's so many movies that I can directly point that he gave me. My mom had a couple friends, married friends that were also teachers, Sam and Sally. And Sally had good taste in movies too, but Sam had adventurous taste that he would like discuss. He's the one that made me go watch Troll for the first time, for instance. Right? Troll's so good.
So good.
But also like he's like, hey, did you know PBS is running Jesus Christ Superstar this weekend?
Hell yes.
Have you ever seen it? You need to turn it on. And so like I'd set that to record or whatever, right? Or like, hey, have you ever heard of the Mel Brooks movie? Like I know you mentioned that you watched Spaceballs and you liked it. Okay, great. Have you ever heard of History of the World Part 1? No, what's that about or whatever, you know? So like he turned me on to all these things that I think I probably wouldn't have gotten into until college if it wouldn't have been for him. I think those sorts of relationships are really important. So even if you don't have any kids, if you've got a friend that's got kids, this is the role you can play in life.
Yes.
You're the one that hands them Interview with a Vampire at the appropriate age and then suddenly fuck their whole rest of their life up.
And the appropriate age is still an inappropriate age. You should remember that part.
Yes.
The appropriate age is inappropriate. We all know.
Precocious tweens out there in your life. They're just waiting for
that
you
book
to hand
fall
them
in their hands.
Fucking Salem's Lot or The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger, or Interview with a Vampire. Yeah, absolutely. Come on, man. Make somebody's day. All right, Ashley, Ghost fucking 101 here. Don't light the candles, babe. Don't do it.
Obviously, this ghost is trying to get you to burn your house down. This ghost is like, let's light this bitch on fire and then fuck while it burns.
So, okay, I didn't immediately assume that the ghost was trying to burn the house down. I assumed that the ghost needed offering of some sort, right? Like we literally just did Merrick, and what did they do at several points in there? They would light a cigar for the deity or whatever that they were trying to think. And so that's what I thought. I was like, oh, she's gonna get more powerful if you light those candles, Quinn. I gotta say, the ghost poontang was apparently quite good though, because Quinn was real caught up in it. Did not notice the house burning down around him.
Indeed, but did come to with cum all over him.
I love the idea though, and it's very unclear the way this plays out. But okay, several people come up to put out the flames. They say, right, and the flames are where? On the inside of his room where he's lit the candles.
I thought he lit them downstairs. Like, I thought that was in a whole different room.
Oh, maybe you're right. I think
I could
you
have
are
read that
right in
wrong, but I
retrospect.
thought it was
because
like
she takes him.
she has him light them.
She's like, light the candles for me, and then she takes him upstairs to fuck. You're right. Okay.
Bitch is trying to burn the house down.
I kept thinking these people came in splashing water on a fire while he's finishing on his chest with no one above him. And I was like, that's a real moment. That's an
awkward conversation you're going to have later.
Okay. We've talked about already how Quinn does not have a truly healthy relationship with any of the women in his life. He immediately after getting this ghost fucking done, though, goes downstairs and tells Pops, Jasmine, Lolly. He told them all what had happened, including how he'd been intimate with the ghost. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know about you, Ashley. Every time I ever end up covered in my own filth and waste, I have a little bit of shame.
Waste.
Right? I'm just saying, like, I'm not anti-sexuality at all, but y'all, I mean, like, maybe don't rush downstairs and tell everybody what you did.
Maybe it's not a breakfast conversation.
Okay, so Goblin talks to him though after the fucking is done, and he says Rebecca was very bad. Rebecca burned down the house. Evil Rebecca. And again, like, if you're demon familiar,
it's like, this bitch is bad. She's probably not great.
That's bad news.
That is bad news. Bad news, I say.
So here's what we find out, though, because Pops and Jasmine and Lolly, etc., all at the breakfast table hearing about his ghost fucking, none of them basically bat an eye. And it turns out why? Goblin came down and warned everybody that the house was burning down. Goblin manifested to the rest of the family in a way that he had never done. But none of these people have ever seen Goblin before, and they saw him, like, and he told Lassie, who's in the well?
Goblin.
Yeah,
it's really weird. Like, for the first time for him to be like believed is in this moment.
Like, fully believed. Nobody takes, and honestly, everybody is like, they don't even want to admit it because they're like, I've spent the last 15 years making fun of this kid behind his back, and like,
oh, Goblin, you got a goblin.
That goblin was real, y'all. That goblin saved us from burning this house down. Also, that's the other thing too. They've always sort of felt like Goblin was a bad presence for everybody, basically, except Linnell. Felt like Goblin was dangerous for him. And a little bit Queen. Queen dealt with it, but that's because Queen just said, it's an imaginary friend. He'll get over it.
And let's get on with
it. Like, written it off. Yeah, it's okay. Just a side note here. Ashley, I literally taught my two most defiant children today. Yes, and I was like, I'm going to send y'all to improv classes. And they were like, why? And I said, because every time I give you a directive or instruction or advice, you tell me, the very first thing you say to me in answer is why that can't work, or it's wrong, or not what you need, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, and listen, I also lived a time when I thought I was the smartest person in the world. And in particularly my mother was dumb as bricks. I remember this. I remember that time when I thought my mother was the stupidest person on earth. So, like, I mean, second only to my father, who was probably mentally challenged. She should have been locked up for being married to him, honestly. He was so stupid. Like, that's the way I felt when I was 12. I get it. I remember. I was there. Then. But you don't let that out of your mouth. So when I tell you, and I used a specific example I gave my daughter yesterday. I was like, hey, Mom's on her way back to the house. Watch for her and help unload the car. And she told me, actually, Oma's on her way over. And so if she's not here before Mom gets home, I guess I will try to unload the car, but I will probably be gone before then. And I said, so what I needed the answer to be in that case was, hey, Mom's on her way, watch for her, help unload the groceries when she gets here. You say, yes, Father. Oma is on her way, and if she beats Mom here, I might not be here
for the groceries.
if Oma needs me to leave right away. but I will try. I will go wait and watch for mom and unload until Oma gets here and is ready to take me. You need to yes and me. And I explained this concept to both of them, and they both sort of laughed at me at first when I explained what it means in improv. But then already twice, Utah in particular has used it, and I'm like, fucking A, it's not, you don't, I understand you're adding
Look,
something to it. It's okay. I need you to not tell me first why
yes,
I'm
it
dumb
needs
though
to
and it's
be.
wrong.
Well, and the rule is it can't be yes, but it has to be yes and.
Yes,
Yeah,
and.
yes and.
Yeah.
But yes, but you're breaking the rule.
Anyway, so all of the family has now yes anded Goblin a
Yes.
little bit. They've like, okay, I believe in your imaginary demon friend, and it turns out he does want your benefit because that Rebecca bitch is trouble. If you see her again, make the sign of the cross, run away. Don't
fuck her.
They're all
Don't
like,
fuck her again. Don't fuck that ghost again.
and she's like, y'all, but she said if I just go find her remains, I could have that sweet, sweet ghost booty anytime I want to. She lives to give pleasure. First of all, stop telling your family about your ghost fucking. But also, of course, they're not going to tell you to go follow those ghost remains. Like, Grandpa's, Pappy's like, no, there's no ghost with Pops.
Yeah.
That's what it's. Pop says there are no remains. They got ate up by the swamp a million years ago. They're all
Look,
gone.
God only knows how many
Don't go
remains
out
are out
there.
there. Are you prepared to find that many dead wives?
Well, that is what Quinn goes to do. He loads that pirogue up.
He gets that pirogue. He gets in that pirogue.
I will say, at least he didn't call it a pierogi. That's what I thought he was going to call it. But no, it's just hard G pirogue.
Hard G pirogue.
That's the name of the episode, I think. Hard G pirogue. Ghost Woman told you to find her remains, get more ghost booty. And while he says he doesn't want that, he does go chasing those remains out in the swamp.
He does indeed.
And that's where we leave our hero for this section of the book. I'm excited about the turn of this one. My guess is that we are going to meet Quinn's maker out there. I am certain that these mysteries align with the dark, nefarious past of Blackwood Manor. That doesn't involve any slavery, by the way. Like, did you know that she very conveniently wrote this house was post
We're chill.
Civil
We're
War
chill
when it
here.
got built. Manfred was evil, but he wasn't that kind of evil. Sure, Anne. Sure.
Sure, Jan.
He just lives in the big house.
Yeah, he's got real big house energy.
All right, I'm really enjoying this book. I'm excited to get through the rest of this with
I'm
you all.
also really enjoying having a physical book in my hand. It's so delightful.
Good for you. I may try that with one of our upcoming ones. I'm a lie. I'm not going to do that anytime soon. I enjoy audiobooks too much.
I enjoy them, but I generally listen to audiobooks when I'm working. And so if I'm listening to a fresh new audiobook, it's hard to pay attention 100% the way I need to.
Can I tell you
so
I mentioned these earlier. I am playing them through my magic glasses. It's not the only thing that I listen to that way, but it's not. So they don't have like any bass, right? They've got very little bass at all because of the nature of the speakers. The speakers are in the arms, so they're not great for music. But they are really, really good for the spoken word, actually, and Audible, especially. Like, you can connect in the app, and you can even tell the little dingus that's built in, the little demon that's built into them, to play your Audible or whatever. So yeah, I've been like wandering around doing my chores and stuff, listening to my audiobook that way. I have enjoyed it. Bad pronunciation aside.
Pierogies aside.
Before we wrap up, that's pierogies aside. Before we wrap up this episode, I do want to put a little section here, and I will mark this in the show notes so that anybody who just wants to listen to this can. Yeah, let's talk about the Talamasca news. And I say Talamasca news. We've got some more news other than just Talamasca. I want to get to this first, actually, because I teased that we had some information. So this came from our Patreon. I had a listener and a patron reach out to me and say that they were at ATX.
Yes.
Okay. Where was it? Okay. I just left the AMC, and I'm not going to mention your name, by the way. You can message me if you want to and say, yes, you can tell who I am.
We won't out you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if everything you said was necessarily open, so we'll keep it a secret. I just left the AMC panel, and Rollin was playing Lestat's music for fans. Kel Surprise, wait a minute, you've got finished music that you're playing? So this listener did not actually get to listen with Rollin. They said that it was not something I thought I could handle, having him stare at me as I listened to the
Yeah.
music. However, they talked to a woman who got the listen, and this person said they were very into the music, pop rock heavy. Rollin was telling people that he had 16
Yeah.
songs
On
on his phone at that event. This season is a big swing. He is feeling very confident. So that was the big news there. Interesting. The showrunner for Mayfair Witches was supposed to be on the panel, but they weren't. Mark Johnson said in season 3 they plan to lean into the batshit crazy side of the show, and it sounded like to this person that we should expect a bit of a reboot for season 3. I think we were expecting
Yeah.
that already.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of confirmation that, hey, even though what's her name? What is her name? The showrunner, the old showrunner. Even though Esta Spalding,
Yeah.
there you go. Even though Esta's still going to be around, it is in a reduced role that has been shuffled. Part of that was to redirect the way this show is going to work. Okay, last detail. Talamaska is going to be a spy show, not in the vein of James Bond, but more John le Carre. So think like in American versions, it would be like 3 Days of the Condor, or even something more think like the Winter Soldier. Captain America: The Winter Soldier was sort of
Love
like
that.
espionage and like trying to stay undercover, or like a Jason Bourne
Yeah.
film,
Yeah.
or like any of the Mission Impossibles once Ethan goes
Yeah.
rogue, that sort of
Maybe
thing.
it'll have a little 24
We're hiding in
vibe.
the shadows. Yeah. Also, Interview with the Vampire starts shooting in 2 weeks in Toronto.
Yes.
So there you go. And as a matter of fact, there was a post in our Facebook group the other
Ooh,
day where they are casting right
the
now,
band.
particularly for musicians and instrumentalists. I thought there was an interesting note in there. They were like, we're casting for a traditional rock band. However, if you are a virtuoso violinist, don't come sort of half-ass play a guitar for us. Play the violin and show us what you can do with the violin, and maybe we figure out
A way to
thing that we weren't expecting. Yeah. I thought that was really cool. And again, if you're in Toronto, like get in there, man.
Get
Like,
in there. Don't
right?
break your NDA, but tell us everything.
Tell us everything. Come do an episode. Absolutely. All right. Let me
We'll
see.
blur your face and change your voice.
Okay, here's the biggest news from Talamaska. There is a new vampire on the prowl. Welcome Jason Schwartzman to Talamaska, The Secret Order, premiering this October on AMC and AMC Plus. So a few pieces of news there, and all of this has been shared in the group. Talamaska will premiere on AMC and AMC Plus in October. They haven't given us a date yet, but Ashley and I were talking about it earlier. My guess is it's October 5th. It's the first week of October.
I think
and
early
they'll
October
just
for
run
sure.
it.
I'm definitely first or second week.
I think it's going to be a 6-episode series. They said maybe 8 episodes, but still, it won't be many. And this will get us through Halloween if you start at the beginning. So also, The Secret Order is officially the subtitle of this thing. So Jason Schwartzman, his name is Burton, supposedly, although the way that they've presented the names here makes it seem like maybe they're code names or maybe they've been painted over or something. So there's a possibility that this might be a character we actually know, just rejiggered for the TV series. My guess is it's probably original. The look that he's got is pretty interesting, honestly. I dig
like
it.
the picture. I like the photograph. He looks really great. He's hit or miss for me as an actor. I don't always enjoy him. But so I'm interested. I hope it's a hit for me with him.
What was Wes Anderson's last movie, the rocket movie?
I don't know.
Asteroid City.
Those wear me out. Some of those fucking wear me out. I just cannot.
I've seen other people say that too. The Wes Anderson movies kind of wear you out. I personally love his shit. It is so pretentious at times as to be up his own nose.
He
for
is
sure.
that is a creator that is very much up their own ass.
The Royal Tenenbaums is like I mean, it was the movie. The day that I knew my father was dying, I watched the Royal Tannenbaums because that's the way that I feel about that film, and I just needed to bleed a little bit, emotionally speaking, and I knew that that film could get it done. I love the Darjeeling Limited is like way up there on my list. I really really love Fantastic Mr. Fox. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is probably my favorite of his,
I did enjoy
and then
that one. That
like
is my favorite of his.
Rushmore and Bottle Rocket, I've got like a real like soft spot for because I discovered those in high school, like around the same time I got into Kevin Smith films and Quentin Tarantino. Wes Anderson's first few movies were up there for me too. I remember in particular, there's this amazing joke between Schwartzman and whichever Wilson brother is in Rushmore. I think it's
Owen.
Owen. It's not the Cars one, it's the other one.
Well, that's
Um,
shit.
which brother is it?
is
It's not the
which?
guy from Cars. It's the other one. Yeah, I don't remember which one is which either. I always get them confused. Anyway, whichever Wilson brother is in Rushmore, he's sitting at the table with Bill Murray and with Schwartzman's character and the girl that they all like, I think. And the Wilson brothers says, or no, the Schwartzman says, "Nice scrubs you're wearing." And he goes, "These are my OR scrubs." And Schwartzman goes, "Oh, are they?" My high school best friend and I thought that was the funniest joke that had ever been written in the history of film. It was just, and anyway, so Schwartzman will always be a home run for me. I just love this dude. He is known much more for comedy than he is for dramatic acting. And it does make me wonder if, I think in particular of a character like Santiago.
Yeah.
Santiago, as presented in season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, is very funny and very comedic in his delivery, even though it's all played straight. Right.
And he's horrifying. He's terrifying, but he's very funny, about being terrifying.
So like I could absolutely see something like that. I think Jason is a very talented actor. I do hear what you're saying. He's hit or miss as far as like what
a little sticky.
Yeah, I could see that. Celine Buckins is another announcement. She's cast as Doris, and we see an image of her carrying sort of like a Talamascan blowtorch, it looks like, that she's created there. I don't know what her role will be. An old soul protected by the Coven is what Anne Rice's Immortal Universe has posted about her. And then, the big announcement that the series is going to premiere in October. I got to tell you, this is again like everything that we hear from them is like, I don't know. This is another one of those where I'm like, hey, okay.
I'm hopeful.
Jason Schwartzman's a big name. Somebody, Derek in the Facebook group made the point, is this the biggest named actor that we've had in the franchise so far? I think there's definitely an argument to be made for that. Like none of the others are Hollywood names in the way that Jason Schwartzman is.
Yeah, I think he probably is the biggest name as far as it's gone so far, except maybe not I would say not including Mayfair. Mayfair has had some pretty big names in it.
I mean, is Harry Hamlin bigger than Jason Schwartzman? Probably, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, like, none of the leads have been. I say that. Maybe Rowan. What's her name? Alexandria Daddario. She's probably as famous as Schwartzman
especially
is.
right now.
Yeah, that's
she's
fair.
Very well known right now.
Yeah, after the White Lotus, she was on a real run to get that first season of Mayfair. That's a good point. But he's bigger than Finchner, William Fichtner or whatever. That's the other big name that's been cast so far for Talamaska. But Fichtner is very much like that guy.
Yeah, he's
like everybody's seen him in a movie, but you don't know his name
he's
necessarily.
Usually an asshole.
Yeah.
Double crosser.
Super interested. So that's another thing somebody mentioned on the Facebook or on the YouTube channel, I should say, about Jasper in particular, and referenced him. Jasper is the character that Fichtner is playing. Referenced Jasper as a vampire, and I was like, is there a trailer that confirms that he's a vampire? I haven't seen one yet, and this person said I don't think it's been confirmed, but there's some of the marketing material that they had seen that sort of implies that he might be. I do think that we are going to get a handful of vampires directly connected to the Talamasca series in a way that I was not really expecting, which again goes back to what we talked about with Merrick, where it's like, are they going to do the fight between the vampires and the Talamasca? Maybe. If they do that, there's some really interesting stories we could be telling here. I don't know how to take this, y'all, other than
it's more stuff for us to watch and talk about.
it's more stuff for us to watch. Absolutely. Also, the fact that they've locked down October now means we definitely have one more round of book club and movie nights after we finish Blackwood Farm and before we get to Talamasca. So join us at articulatecoven.com/join. $2 or more a month gets you access to everything we do early and ad free. $5 or more a month gets you access to vote on our book clubs and our movie nights when those come up, and we'll do another round before too long so that y'all can line those out for us.
Big thanks to whoever wanted to do Poltergeist. It's one of my fucking favorite movies, and I'm so excited.
Poltergeist is going to be so much fun. Yes, that is. I'm very much looking forward to that one.
What's next week?
All right, let's run down the schedule here, by the way. All right.
Week.
Yep, we're going into Once Bitten first. So, okay. Once Bitten was overwhelmingly people's like third favorite movie or third movie choice in this list. Most people did not vote for it, but many people put it in their top 3 suggestions in the comments. And I said we need to put it first because we've had quite the heavy material lately. Merrick was a fairly heavy book, especially the ending. We just did Sinners fairly recently. Nosferatu was pretty heavy.
Let's have
versions.
Some whimsy.
Yeah, a little light and whimsy, especially because after Once Bitten, so Once Bitten from 1985 next week with Jim Carrey at the center of that one. Then we're going to go back to Blackwood Farm Part 2. We'll do chapters 11 through 25 in our next section. And then after that, this is June 22nd now, we're going to do The Hunger from 1983. David Bowie, Susan Sarandon, Catherine Deneuve. I've never seen it either. Very excited about that one. There was a movie that someone suggested, and I haven't put it in our rotation to talk about on this show, but in my head, I've connected it for years with this movie. This one has a very young Hugh Grant in it. But there's a movie called Lair of the White Worm, which is a weird little British vampire movie. In my head, The Hunger and Lair of the White Worm had sort of always existed together. I have now seen Lair of the White Worm. I watched that back this Halloween. So now I'm going to have seen The Hunger too. I'm excited about it. Then, okay, on June 29th, we'll do another part of Blackwood Farm, chapter 26 to 40. And then July 6th, we'll do The Invitation from 2022. Cool little horror vampire movie from the folks that did Ready or Not, which is another great. Also, they just did, I think that same production crew did The Companion, which I don't know if you've seen that. Or maybe it's just called Companion, actually, now that I think about it. That came out just this past year. I loved it. Just watched it on HBO Max. Really, really fun movie. Yeah. Then we'll wrap up Blackwood Farm on July 13th. Then July 20th, it's Poltergeist from 1982.
Yes.
Okay, Ashley, is it Poltergeist or Amityville Horror where the little girl says, they're here? That's what I thought. Okay.
Poltergeist.
Excited about this one. That little girl saying they're here was such a heavy part of my childhood because Poltergeist was one of those movies that anytime they would like update home video in some way, like when they came out with a new version of surround sound, or when they first started pushing Laserdisc, or when they first started pushing DVD, they do a new version of Poltergeist, and in the clip show that they would show you on, if you just bought the new format, you could get all these things, would be that little girl saying, they're here.
Yeah. It's creepy.
So super excited to see that one. And then we'll wrap it all up on July 27th with the Articulate Coven live stream, and then back into our next book club and movie night series.
I love it.
Fun stuff ahead. Hard G Pirogue is over for now, though.
On to the next section. What will he mispronounce next, Joel?
I'm just excited to see. Now I need to go look up her name because I didn't call her out. I called out Jim Carrey earlier. Once Bitten features the lovely and amazing Lauren Hutton.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Lauren Hutton did a lot for young Joel.
Going after the
Yeah.
young boy.
Y'all go see that one this week and then join us when we talk about it very, very soon. Until then, we have been your hosts. I am Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Thank you for sharing this time with the Articulate Coven. Support the show as either a free or paid member at articulatecoven.com/join. You can also find us on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Find more from the Coven with our sister show, Flan Again, covering the works of Mike Flanagan.